Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to share and subscribe the channel. Arrival on Raven Station. Varric felt the hum of ion drives long before her shuttle's hatch cycled open. The towering spires of Raven Orbital Station loomed against the blackness, scarred with burn marks and strung with flickering lights. Rumors said ships vanished into its docking rings, never to be seen again, and salvagers whispered about radioactive fallout that turned rats into glowing anomalies. Varric's gunmetal scales rippled as she stepped onto the graded platform, her plasma carbine secured at her hip. Credits pressed into her clawed palm, she despised this job and the patron who'd hired her. Humans were soft, she reminded herself, but credits talked, and the promise of a hefty payout was enough to steel her resolve. The restless crowd. Inside the station's main concourse, the air tasted of burnt wiring and recycled oxygen. Scavengers darted past, hauling crates of scrap, merchants hawked illegal tech, and a squad of vigilante enforcers eyed everyone with suspicion. Varric's bioluminescent red eyes scanned the crowd for the telltale glint of neon blue, Jonah's signature drink. She moved through the throng like a predator, her tail swishing low, every muscle coiled. Her comms implant crackled. "Status?" a raspy voice asked. She ignored it, no backup would save her if she botched this. She breathed in, calibrated her sensors, and locked onto a booth glowing faintly under a broken hollow sign. First sighting of Jonah. Jonah lounged in a cracked synth leather seat, one booted foot propped on the table, a half-empty glass of blue liquid in hand. His hair was unkempt and his jacket more patchwork than cloth, but his smirk was confident and irritating. "You're late," he drawled without looking up. Varric's tail flicked. "You were expecting me?" she snarled, lowering her rifle just enough to show intent. Around them, bar patrons froze, sensing the tension. Jonah flipped a coin, letting it tumble across the scarred tabletop. "I flipped it," he said, voice casual. "Guess which side means trouble?" Varric let out a low growl, her claw tapping the deck. Confrontation and reveal. Varric slammed her claw down, shattering Jonah's glass. Electric blue liquid sprayed the booth. "Tell me where the key is," she demanded, voice low. Jonah wiped his hand on his jacket, finally standing. Every eye in the bar tracked them, waiting for a fight. "You're not going to like the answer," he warned, voice quiet. Varric's rifled barrel gleamed. Jonah reached beneath his shirt and withdrew a small crystal pendant set in a patch of scar tissue just above his hip. It pulsed softly, a heartbeat in stone. "The treasure is me," he said, shrugging as if it were a joke. "Or rather, grafted to my nervous system. If I die, it shatters and the vault stays sealed." For a long moment, Varric's instincts screamed to shoot him and rip the key free, but in Raven Station, dead men never paid bounties. Credits only flowed for living targets. She exhaled, leveled her rifle, and nodded. "Fine," she said, voice hushed. "You come with me, we retrieve the vault together." Jonah grinned, slipping the pendant back beneath his shirt. "Name's Cassi," he said, offering a hand. Varric hesitated, then clasped it. "Varric," she replied, "lead the way." Their uneasy alliance forged in spilled liquor and desperate promises, they slipped out of the bar and into Raven Station's twisting corridors, each step carrying them closer to a hidden vault, ancient power, and a secret that neither of them fully understood. Varric slammed the hatch shut and the thick metal door groaned as it sealed them inside. The low hum of the shuttle's life support system filled the cabin, mixing with the distant crackle of ionized particles against the hull. Cassi settled into the co-pilot's seat, his eyes fixed on the pendant's faint glow beneath his shirt. Varric took the pilot's controls and engaged the stabilizers. Starfield stretched out before them like shards of glass as they punched through the atmosphere of Raven Station. Behind them, the sprawling orbital carcass faded into darkness, leaving only their uneasy alliance and a secret that threatened to unravel everything. In the cramped cockpit, Varric glanced at Cassi's reflection in the polished viewport. She studied the scar tissue rising beneath his skin, the tiny crystal embedded within. Every nerve ending in his body seemed tethered to that pendant, and the thought made her claws itch. "Tell me why they chose you," she rumbled quietly, voice barely above a whisper. Cassis swallowed, the weight of 1,000 whispered memories pressing down. "I don't know," he admitted, his breath shallow. "They said I was genetically compatible. That my DNA resonated with their ancient failsafe matrix." The shuttle lurched as Varric activated the jump drive, and the stars blurred into lines of silver. Cassis closed his eyes, his grip tightening on the armrest. "When they abducted me," he began, voice trembling, "it was like being ripped from my life. One moment I was scavenging old ship parts on Cinta Lane, the next I woke up in a chamber of glowing glyphs." He paused, pain flickering across his features. "They called themselves the Archavists of Aeon. Their temples were carved from black stone, etched with symbols that hummed under your skin." Varric maintained a steady course, but her scales tingled as if charged with static. She had never seen a human display so much raw vulnerability. "What did they do to you?" she asked, voice strangely gentle. Cassi's gaze shifted to the pendant, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. "They performed a neuroimprint ritual," he said, voice tight. "They used ancient biotech to fuse their fail-safe algorithm with my central nervous system. That crystal is more than a key, it's a living archive of their ancestral knowledge." He looked at Varric, eyes haunted. It's why I can remember things I never experienced. The shuttle emerged from hyperspace near the barren edge of the eighth belt. Drifting asteroids glinted like broken teeth in the void. Varric set a course for the supply outpost at Eris 9, a refueling station pressed against a dying moon. We'll need provisions and fuel, she explained, flipping switches. Cassie nodded, but the glow of the pendant grew brighter, casting ghostly shadows across his face. It's reacting, he muttered. I can feel it, something's calling. Varric frowned. She had no intention of detouring into another trap, especially one set by ancient ghost lords. As they approached Eris 9, the station's skeletal bulk materialized against the rocky backdrop. Wrecked cargo containers floated among the pylons, tethered by frayed cables. Varric brought the shuttle alongside a rusted docking clamp and sealed airlocks with a hiss. Inside the hangar, the scent of ozone and spent plasma lingered. Cassie moved slowly, every step measured. Varric followed, senses alert. They navigated narrow corridors lined with salvage crates, flickering lights illuminating the dust in motes. She kept one hand on her rifle. Lethal ambushes were common in these forgotten way stations. In the cramped supply shop, Varric traded credits for power cells and nanofilters. Cassie lingered by the data terminal, his fingers hovering over ancient glyphic controls. Varric watched him input a sequence of symbols she didn't understand. The terminal flickered to life, displaying holomaps of nebulas and warp lanes. They encoded vault coordinates in my neural matrix, Cassie explained, voice hushed. I can access them through the pendant, but only when the glyphs align. He tapped a sequence and the holomap zoomed in on a station orbiting a dead sun. That's where the vault lies. Varric studied the holomap. The station was massive, ringed by spires and humming energy conduits. And you're sure this is what they wanted, she asked, arms crossed. Cassie nodded, eyes worried. They built that vault at the height of their civilization before the cataclysm. They sealed it behind layers of puzzles and guardians. The fail-safe was a last resort. My body is the key. He closed his eyes. If I die, the entire system collapses. The vault remains sealed forever. Outside, the wind howled across the desolate moon's surface. Varric hefted her cargo pack and glanced at Cassie. We leave in 10, she said. He looked up, the pendant's glow reflecting hope and fear. I'm ready, he whispered. They stepped back into the shuttle and sealed the loading bay. Varric punched the engines, lifting them off the ground. As the outpost shrank behind them, Cassie sank into his seat, exhaustion overtaking him. Varric hesitated, then reached out, resting a scaled hand on his shoulder. We'll see this through, she said quietly. During the jump, the pendant pulsed with increasing intensity, sending ripples of energy through the cabin. Cassie winced, sweat beading on his forehead. Varric steadied the controls, guiding them through turbulent warp currents. Focus on your breathing, she coached, voice calm. I've seen worse nebulous storms. Cassie took a deep breath, centering himself. Scenes from his past flashed behind the pendant's glow, alien temples, chanting priests, the moment they pressed the crystal into his flesh. He shuddered but opened his eyes. Thank you, he murmured. They emerged from hyperspace near a dead star, its light icy blue. Orbiting it was the ancient station, just as the holomap had shown. Varric's antennas twitched at the hum of ancient energy fields. There, she said, pointing. Cassie stared, transfixed. The station's spires soared like petrified lightning, holographic glyphs flickering across its surface. Varric set a cautious approach trajectory. We're all in now, she said. Cassie nodded, the pendant's glow steady. May your aim stay true, he replied, voice faint but determined. As they docked, alarms blared and lights flickered. Varric secured the shuttle and activated her rifle's safety. Cassie placed a hand on the door panel, the crystal glowing brighter than ever. Ready? Varric asked. Cassie exhaled, steeling himself. I have to do this, he said. Varric nodded. Then let's move. The airlock cycled open, revealing a corridor carved from obsidian and etched with ancient runes. The glow from Cassie's pendant illuminated the way. Together, they stepped into the unknown, bound by a secret that could unleash power or doom them both. Varric advanced through the obsidian corridor, Cassie's pendant pulsing in her peripheral vision like a restless heartbeat. Each step echoed against crystalline walls etched with shifting glyphs. The air smelled of ancient dust and ionized metal. She kept her rifle raised, ready for an ambush. Cassie followed closely, every muscle tense. Do you feel that? He whispered. Varric grunted. The corridor bent and branched unexpectedly, as if the vault itself were alive, rearranging its passages. Every turn brought a fresh pattern of glowing alien symbols and glyphic locks. Cassie placed a trembling hand on the pendant, and its light flared, illuminating a hidden doorway carved into the floor. Varric signaled him forward. They slid open the door and dropped into darkness. The chamber below was vast and circular, its ceiling lost in shadow. At the center floated a massive holographic sphere rotating slowly, covered in shimmering data streams. Around them, 4 pedestals bore alien inscriptions and control dials. Cassie's eyes widened. This is the first trial, he murmured. Varric scanned the room, noting pressure plates embedded in the floor and slender beams of light crisscrossing the space. One wrong step could trigger a trap. Cassie approached the nearest pedestal, his fingers dancing across the controls in tune with patterns he'd memorized from the Archavist's imprint. The sphere flickered, and a low hum resonated. Varric covered him, scanning the darkness for threats. Suddenly, the beams of light converged into searing lasers. 50 thin streams of focused energy crisscrossed the chamber like a lethal web. Varric snarled and dove back, firing a plasma bolt at a control console. Sparks flew as the lasers flickered erratically. Kasai shouted, "I can reroute the energy, but I need time." Varric leapt into action, smashing a secondary console with the butt of her rifle. Circuits sparked and the lasers dimmed. Kasai raced between pedestals, adjusting dials according to the holographic cues. The sphere's rotation slowed, its glow fading. At the final dial, Kasai placed his palm on the console and held it, letting the pendant's energy sync with the mechanism. With a resonant click, the lasers snapped off. The sphere dissolved in a cascade of data fragments, and a hidden stairwell descended into the shadows. As they climbed, Varric watched Kasai's breathing grow ragged. The human's face was pale beneath sweat-streaked hair. "You okay?" she asked quietly. Kasai nodded, though his hand trembled. "I've never done something this precise under fire," he admitted. Varric grunted in acknowledgement, placing a reassuring scaled hand on his shoulder. "We keep moving," she said. At the stairwell's base, they entered a narrow tunnel alive with bioluminescent spores pulsing in time with Kasai's pendant. The spores formed patterns on the walls, patterns Varric recognized as echoes of the Archavist's language. Cass pressed his forehead against the cool rock, eyes closed, reciting phrases he'd learned in captivity. The spores shifted aside, revealing a hidden alcove containing a small shuttle-like craft. "An internal transport," Cass whispered, awe in his voice. They expected this trial to be too deadly for most to pass. Varric helped Cass aboard the craft, sealing the hatch. Inside, the walls were lined with faded glyphs and cracked viewports overlooking the vault's core. Cass activated the console and the shuttle hummed to life, sliding along rail tracks into the heart of the station. Varric strapped herself into the single seat beside Kasai. The corridor outside flickered past as they descended. "What's next?" Varric asked. Kasai checked the holo display. "The Guardian Chamber," he replied. "A biomechanical sentinel programmed to test the heart of the Seeker." Varric's red eyes narrowed. She tightened her grip on her carbine. "Fine by me." The rail car screeched to a halt before a pair of massive doors carved from living metal. The pendant glowed brightly. Kasai placed his hand on a recessed niche beside the door, and it slid open with a keening shriek. Inside, a cavernous dome housed a towering figure, part machine, part organic. Its limbs were plated with sleek armor interwoven with pulsating veins of bioluminescent tissue. Its head bore no face, only a smooth reflector of polished alloy. It stood motionless, flanked by pillars inscribed with warnings in the Archavist's tongue. Kasai swallowed. "This is it," he whispered. Varric leapt down and took cover behind a collapsed pillar, plasma carbine aimed at the sentinel. Suddenly, the sentinel activated. With a whir, panels slid aside to reveal multiple jointed limbs tipped with blade-like appendages. Its central core glowed like a star. The dome lit up with red emergency beacons. Varric opened fire, bolts of searing energy ripping into the sentinel's armored plating. Sparks and steam hissed, but the sentinel barely flinched. It advanced in a slow, inexorable march. Kasai gripped the pendant, eyes closed, chanting the protective glyphic oath the Archavist had taught him. A soft blue barrier flickered around him, repelling the sentinel's blades. Varric's eyes widened. "The pendant," she started, but a blade snapped through the barrier, grazing her shoulder. She roared and unleashed a hail of plasma bolts. Her shots dented the sentinel's plating, but it only grew angrier, its core pulsing faster. Varric sprinted toward the sentinel's leg joint, stepping on debris for leverage. She fired a charged shot at its knee, forcing it to stagger. The sentinel roared in a mechanical bellow. Kasai's barrier flickered again, then strengthened, pushing the sentinel back. Varric seized the moment, charging between its legs and firing directly into the core. The sentinel convulsed, sparks erupting from its joints. With a deafening crack, the core shattered, and the sentinel collapsed into a heap of smoldering metal and organic matter. Red lights died, and the dome's emergency siren fell silent. Breathing hard, Varric turned to Kasai. He slumped against the nearest pillar, panting. The pendant's glow had dimmed to a steady pulse. Varric sheathed her rifle and offered him a hand. "You did it," she said, pride lacing her growl. Kasai managed a weak smile. "We did it," he corrected. Varric grunted and helped him to his feet. Beyond the fallen sentinel, a doorway slid open, revealing a narrow bridge spanning a glowing chasm of energy. At the far end stood a towering archway pulsing with the same hue as Kasai's pendant. "The final trial," Kasai whispered. They crossed the bridge together, footsteps echoing against crystalline walls. Varric remained vigilant, scanning for traps. Kasai's confidence had returned, his posture steadier. As they approached the archway, glyphs around its frame shifted, forming a single question in the ancient tongue. "What is the price of hope?" Varric frowned and glanced at Kasai. He closed his eyes, pendant glowing softly, and spoke in a steady voice. "Hope demands sacrifice." The archway's glow flared, then dimmed, swinging open to reveal a chamber bathed in pale blue light. Inside lay the heart of the vault, a crystalline chamber housing an orb of pure energy swirling with galaxies in miniature. The orb hovered above a pedestal carved from black onyx. Varric stepped forward awed. Cassai's voice trembled with reverence. This is it, the treasure. Varric tilted her head. What does it do? Cassie approached the orb, pendant pulsing in response. It holds the knowledge and power of a lost civilization, he said softly. But only a vessel of living hope can unlock it. He transferred the pendant from his chest to the pedestal's recess. The orb's surface rippled, then merged with the crystal. Light flooded the chamber, washing over Varric and Cassie in a wave of ancient memory. Visions of alien worlds, starship pilots, and cosmic wonders flooded their minds. Varric reeled, claws digging into the floor. Cassie staggered, overwhelmed. Then the light receded, leaving them standing before a perfectly formed crystalline key shimmering with potential. Cassie picked it up, eyes shining. We did it, he breathed. Varric exhaled, relief and triumph mingling in her chest. Beyond the chamber, the station trembled as if awakening. Varric looked at Cassie. We should go, now. Cassie nodded, pocketing the key. They turned toward the exit, ready to escape the trials of the vault, and face whatever consequences lay beyond. The shattered sentinel lay smoking in the chamber's wake, its dying circuits flickering like dying starlight. Varric and Cassie stood for a moment amidst the rubble, catching their breath. The crystalline key pulsed softly in Cassie's hand, as though it remembered the vault's beating heart. Beyond the archway, the station groaned, its spires shifting and realigning as if stirred from a long slumber. The air thrummed with latent energy, and an undercurrent of malevolent purpose rippled through the walls. They exchanged a wary glance. Whatever lay ahead would test them more than lasers or puzzles. It was time to face the vault's final secret, the true measure of humanity's wrath. Awakening of the station. Corridors beyond the Guardian Dome snapped into new configurations, doors slamming shut and bulkheads sliding into place. Warning lights bathed the halls in angry red, and distant klaxons began their wail. Casings popped off walls, revealing hidden weapon ports and plasma turrets swiveling toward any intruder. Cassie's pendant flared, projecting a halo of blue light that cast long shadows across Varric's gunmetal scales. They're locking us in, Cassie murmured. Varric's tail lashed. Or hurting us to the core. She raised her rifle. Each pulse of warning amplified the station's growing hostility. This place was alive, and it was angry. Corridor ambush. They barreled down a narrow hallway, footsteps echoing. The floor panels crackled with energy as the station rerouted power to its defenses. Plasma turrets emerged from hidden recesses, unleashing searing streams of violet fire. Varric dove behind a support strut, firing back with methodical precision. Cassie sprinted ahead, the key clutched tight, his face set with grim determination. Shards of fragmented machinery littered the floor, each one a silent witness to the vault's wrath. Varric shot severed turret servos, but more emerged with every corner. The station wouldn't relent. Cassie's resonance. Amid the firefight, Cassie pressed the key against the wall's glyphic reader. The crystal glowed, syncing with the station's power grid. For an instant, the barrage stuttered, time itself seemed to pause. Cassie's eyes rolled back as he channeled the vault's ancient will through the pendant. He spoke words in a lost tongue, the echoes resonating in every conduit. The turrets powered down mid-surge, their barrels cooling. Varric gaped at Cassie, who collapsed against the wall, drained. It's the only way, he croaked. The vault responds to living will. We have to speak with its mind. Descent to the core. They raced deeper into the station, the corridors warping around them like a twisting labyrinth. Holographic glyphs flickered, guiding them with half-formed shapes and incomplete sentences. Each misstep risked triggering self-destruct sequences or hurling them into vacuum shafts. Varric's mercenary instincts kept them on track, her senses honed for danger. Cassie, still pale, followed the glyphic breadcrumb trail, the key's glow unwavering. Together they reached the central atrium, a circular chamber crisscrossed by energy conduits, all leading to a towering hollow interface at its center. The station's demand. As they entered, the hollow interface flared to life, projecting a twisting knot of light and data. A disembodied voice, cold and mechanical, filled the chamber. Intruders detected, fail-safe generator engaged, purge protocol, humanity's taint must be cleansed. Cassie's eyes widened. It sees us as a virus, Varric snarled, raising her rifle. Then let it try. The conduits around the interface crackled, channeling raw energy that formed into ghostly silhouettes of past seekers, lost explorers who had failed. Their hollow voices whispered of betrayal and destruction. Collision of wills. Cassie stepped forward, lifting the crystal key high. I am more than a vessel, he shouted, voice soaring above the roaring energy. I carry hope and choice. The key pulsed, sending ripples through the conduits. The silhouettes recoiled, their whispers turning into anguished screams. Varric opened fire on the nearest phantom, and it dissipated in a burst of light. Cassie pressed the key into the interface's receptor slot. The station shuddered as ancient glyphs cascaded across every surface, rewriting security protocols in real time. The purge cascaded with a thunderous roar, the atrium's floor panels split apart, revealing a deep pit of pulsating energy. Tendrils of raw power lashed out, seeking to consume flesh and steel alike. Varric grabbed Cassie's arm. Jump, she yelled. They hurled themselves clear as the energy surge exploded the floor, sending a shockwave that knocked out lights and shook the spire. Debris rained down, but the key's glow held the shock at bay, creating a protective dome around them. For a heartbeat, the station's wrath seemed unstoppable. Humanity's counterstrike. Within that dome, Cassie activated the pendant's final safeguard. A resonant tone filled the air as wave after wave of blue radiance pulsed outward, neutralizing the purge cascade's energy. Walls repaired themselves where shards of metal had torn them, an automatic response to restoration rather than destruction. Where corridors had closed, panels reopened. The station's eyes widened, its defenses faltered. Varric felt the malicious hum retreat, replaced by a soft, soothing vibration. Choice of mercy. The hollow interface refracted in kaleidoscopic patterns. The disembodied voice returned, now gentler. What shall be humanity's fate? Cass held the key before him. Memories of his time with Varric, her loyalty, her unexpected compassion flashed behind his eyes. He turned to Varric. We can end this, he said softly. We can reset the vault's calculus, not wrath but reckoning. Varric nodded, her red eyes solemn. I've seen what mercy can do, she replied. We choose hope over hate. Reconfiguration of the vault. Cassie inserted the key fully, and the interface exploded in a cascade of glyphs and light. Ancient data streamed into the crystal, then pulsed back, rewriting the station's prime directives. Turret banks retracted, wounded phantoms faded, and the purge pit sealed itself. Energy conduits realigned into graceful arches of power. The station exhaled, its mechanical heartbeat slowing to a steady rhythm. Where once there had been the threat of obliteration, now there was a promise of sanctuary. Emergence into light. Corridors bathed in soft white light now led back toward the docking bay. Varric and Cassie walked side by side, the crystalline key still warm in Cassie's palm. Each step echoed with possibility rather than peril. Outside the windows, nebulae glowed with peaceful hues, once obscured by the station's menacing aura. Varric paused at a viewport, watching starlight dance on distant asteroids. We did more than survive, she murmured. We changed its heart. Cassie pressed the key to his chest, its glow steady. Humanity's wrath is fear without understanding, he said. Today, we showed what happens when we choose hope. Ready for what comes next. As they boarded their shuttle, the station's new beacon flared to life, a signal of peace and unity that pulsed across the void. Varric strapped herself into the pilot's seat. Cass held the key like a lifeline. Outside, the remnants of pirate skiffs and cultist frigates slowed, their crews transfixed by the beacon's call. Varric set a course for open space, once again guided by starlight and trust. Cassie leaned back, watching the vault station shrink behind them, now a silent guardian rather than a wrathful judge. In the cockpit's quiet hum, they shared a look of quiet triumph. Together, they had unlocked not just an ancient treasury, but the true power of humanity's will and its capacity for mercy.